Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Fallon Jordan. I am in the floor of my bedroom with my friend and professional dog trainer, Jackie Audette. And you can see Archer coming through. And then this is my niece, Rain. She's a mini Australian Shepherd who is, I think she's 18 months now, recovering from cancer. So I was excited to share more because I know if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm obsessed with Archer, and he just got his new Instagram so that he could share his thoughts. And, maybe at some point I will be able to communicate with him, but as of right now, I cannot. And him and Jackie are best friends and communicate all the time. And it's so funny because this spot in my room is like very sacred to me. This is where I spent a lot of time with my dog before she passed away because it was hard for her to move. And there's a big window right in front of us where we were able to hang out. So it's kind of cool to be here. And I know you were saying Archer was kind of picking up on some stuff, so I'm sure we'll get to that. But it's also exciting because, again, if you've been following me, like, you know that I'm moving soon. And so this might be one of the last podcasts that I do in my room, which I'm super excited about.
I'm not.
I know. She also is my neighbor, so she pops in all the time.
Yes.
But that's the beauty of doing this work. And like when you are open to it, it doesn't really matter where you are. And especially with animals who are excited to talk to somebody, which Archer is like always right there whenever she's like, do you want to hang out and talk to me? So like to know more about your background, like how you got into dog training and what that process was like to today, where you kind of finally came on the podcast and said, I am an animal communicator. Hello.
Yes. Well, as Fallon mentioned, I kind of popped out to Earth. Wanting to work with animals is just something I knew immediately as a kid I wanted to do. I was very good at it. I never understood why other people couldn't understand animals the way that I do.
Making sure the volume's on high. I got paranoid for a second.
That's fine. I never understood why other people didn't know how to talk to animals the way I did and like communicate with them. And it was really baffling to me. And still to this day, it kind of is. It wasn't only until I would say over the last 5 years that I realized that I'm not as normal as other people, but I always wanted to work with animals. I got into professional dog training pretty young. I went to school for animal science at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I'm from New York, but I'm now a Georgia transplant. Moved down here in 2018 and I love it. Not going back to New York, no hate New York, but I'm staying in Georgia, at least for now. After I graduated college, I moved into working with shelter dogs and cats at the largest no-kill animal shelter.
Oh.
So that was always something I wanted to do when I was a kid. I kind of made a bucket list of careers I wanted, and I just slowly been like ticking the boxes of all of the careers. So I said, I want to be one of those people who have the fake hand and they feed it to the dog and they pet them to assess their level of aggression. So I was able to do that. And during that opportunity, I had a lot of really cool experiences. I got to work with a lot of celebrities and do a lot of like TV interviews. I was on Anderson Cooper. I was on the news a lot. Just really, really cool things that you wouldn't imagine animal professional world would like lead to, but you'd be surprised. And then I moved into the service dog space, the nonprofit world. I was a guide dog mobility instructor where I was training guide dogs to lead visually impaired people. And then after a 3-year apprenticeship with that, I moved into teaching others how to be guide dog mobility instructors. Also did a little bit of service dog stuff there for veterans. Moving on to Georgia, got into the private sector pet dog world. And I kind of am still like dabbling in that. And that kind of leads to where we are now. So throughout this whole process, I've learned the very much science-backed training methodologies, what is, I guess, the mainstream. There's been a shift in especially dog training and horse training, moving from a lot of more, let's say, harsh training techniques to more positive reinforcement.
That always freaked me out. Some of the old school ways. Just, I mean, parenting humans. There's some people that parent their humans in a way that I think is torture.
Yeah. And there's been a big shift over the last 15 years that I've kind of seen, and it's been evolving. But there's also this other shift that's been happening with me, moving, not just working in that space, but realizing that I need to start working with my kind of psychic and intuitive skills that I have been holding at bay. Just because it, up to this point, I would say over the last 5 years, it's only been more understood, and people weren't judging as much. Now I can kind of say, and they're like, oh, that's interesting, versus like, oh, you're crazy. So now we're kind of moving into the space of embracing that. And I found myself at odds working in the pet dog space, where I was working with an animal. I could teach them, the owners wanted the basic obedience, and they wanted these certain behaviors to be fixed. But since I'm able to actually communicate and hear what the animals are saying and energetically pick up on things, I was realizing it was much deeper. And for me to get the results that they wanted, the owners wanted, it was kind of at odds with what I was intuitively picking up on. So yeah, I've been at a crossroads, kind of shifting away from that old paradigm of, oh, you send your dog away for training, teach them sit down and don't jump and all these things, to working with these animals, still with these goals in mind, but also doing a lot of energetic healing, a lot of communication sessions, working with the dog, finding out why they're doing what they're doing, where it's coming from, how they're feeling, and then pairing that with, okay, how can we get some tangible results for the owners that we can kind of live happily ever after together. So I'm really excited because I feel like there's going to be a shift in training, especially over the next 10 to 20 years. And I kind of feel like I'm at the forefront of that, which is exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. But the biggest thing that pushed me to go into more animal communication stuff was actually nothing to do with animals at all. Growing up, I always had these weird, like, we'll just say paranormal type experiences happen that made me question what reality really is, since I was very little, and it became more and more apparent as I was getting older. And it wasn't until one day I was actually scrolling on TikTok, which I think is actually a great tool to connect with your spirit guides.
Back to that.
Yeah, that's a whole different episode.
Like I know some of you, like Instagram always will tell me something that I'm wanting, and like you have the relationship with TikTok. Like it's a divination tool. Like people are telling you exactly what you need to hear. It's crazy.
Yep. And sometimes they're telling you things that you don't realize you need to hear. So you have to be open to that. So it was one of those experiences where I wasn't quite realizing that a lot of the content coming on my For You page were actually messages from my guides when I wasn't picking up on things. And a past life regressionist came up on my For You page, and I just had this calling of, you need to do this. And I am not one that goes to doctors that often normally. This year though, I have had a few back surgeries that just a couple that made me go to the doctor. But up to that point, I wasn't going to the doctor that much. I wasn't even going to see a therapist or anything like that. So for me to want to do something like a past life regression was really weird. And I was like, I got to listen to this feeling and this calling. And what a past life regression is, it's going under hypnosis. At least for what I did, it was going under hypnosis by a trained professional. Who is actually, she's trained, her name is Mallory Shannon, if you're interested in checking her out. And she's trained in psychology and hypnosis and past life regression, like lots and lots of training up to this point. She does everything through Zoom. So I was able to lay in the comfort of my couch. She put me under hypnosis, which isn't exactly what you think it is. It's more of like a light trance. Like anyone who meditates, it's that meditative state where you're really relaxed and you're receptive to things that are coming to you. And you can wake up if there's an emergency. Like, I mean, you're not just out like you see on the movies. Like, that's very fabricated. And she kind of worked me through a bunch of scenes like from my childhood and just getting me comfortable until we got to my first past life. And the whole point of it is to kind of see what comes to you, what past lives come to you, and how that is
fucking happening right now
for you.
Yeah,
that's because there's a lot of energy here right now. I know.
I feel like someone like, this is really sad because it did come up in one of my past life regressions.
What?
I was hit with rocks here and then I bled to death.
That's coming up for you right now because I just called in a whole bunch of, oh my God, to be with us. So
this is why I love this shit. Cause like,
I know,
I'm here to help people heal, and I'm here to help heal myself. And, I've been told, you've been stoned to death like before, but like, I literally just like felt it and saw it just from like talking about it. And like, I've been like praying for something to bring me through this like weird little portal I've been in the last few days. This is amazing. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry,
Well, no, you're getting like all these codes and like downloads right now, and like
and like
and with the full moon. Well, that's why they're all here helping us right now. We were supposed to be talking about them, but here we are talking about us, which goes hand in hand.
Rain, her soul contract in this life is to be an ambassador of love specifically.
Yeah.
So she's literally just all about the love. So we're getting all the codes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, baby.
Yeah. So when I went under, well, I've done quite a few regressions, past life regressions, but this one in particular, the first one I've ever done, brought me back to the scene I was seeing flashes in my mind since I was a kid. And I was, the scene I was seeing was a tall, skinny, very pale woman, long, straight, stringy, dark hair, looking over a body of water and looking down. And that was all I was able to see and feel throughout my whole life, this like sadness, and that one still image, but I never understood what it was. I don't know why I kept seeing it. It wasn't until this regression under hypnosis that like that whole scene came to life. And all of a sudden I see this woman, ended up being me in a past life, and I was bending down, I pick up a dead baby, and the baby was actually mine. And I went through the purging of emotions of what that felt like. I mean, when I tell you, I was sobbing and shaking and like convulsing in this regression, I'm not kidding. And not to scare anyone from doing this, but that's just how I was processing what I was feeling. It felt very real because it was very real. In that scene, I saw myself picking up the baby. I couldn't believe that. I felt like I let the baby die. I was supposed to be paying attention. Fast forward, I was asked, how did I die in that life? And what ended up coming to me was that I was in this old cabin. I had two fireplaces. I had a fireplace and then a cooking fire going, and the fire started getting out of control. I had such an emptiness that I felt like there was no one left in my life, that I had a choice there. As the fire was starting to get out of control and smoke was filling the cabin, I had the choice to stay and pass away, or I had the choice to leave and save myself. And it was a millisecond decision I had to make, and I chose to stay and die. And that's how I ended that life, because of like loneliness and sadness and stuff like that. When I tell you this changed my life, of like, one, at that point, I believed in past lives, but I didn't quite have that feeling of like knowing.
Yeah.
And after that regression, it really started opening up a lot of my senses and psychic abilities and things like that. It got heightened and way strong, and my ability to communicate with animals like just really skyrocketed after that point. It's like I had a block and I removed that a bit, and then all of a sudden I could just do things way better than I ever had at that point. But that happened, that regression happened after like Christmas, maybe around like New Year time frame. And at the time, my boyfriend's children, who live with their mother, they were away for like a month, and they came to visit again. They were young, under 10. They came to visit again for their next visitation schedule, and probably about a month passed by. We hadn't really talked to them. Plus they were too young. Like, they didn't really want to be on the phone that much and whatnot. I didn't tell too many people about this regression because, to be honest, it like kind of was just, I was processing. It kind of like freaked me out a little bit. There's no way that these kids would know about this because no one would have had the opportunity to talk about it. So when the kids come, his daughter comes running up to me, saying hi. I'm reading a book on the couch, and she looks at me and goes, now mind you, she has a speech impediment. She had seizures when she was younger, so it's very difficult to understand her. But she looks at me, and clear as day, the clearest I've ever been able to hear her speak, she goes, "Do you know we had a past life together?" And I was like, drop my book. I was like, what? I was like, what did you say? And she's like, yeah, we had a past life together. You let me drown, and I died in that life. And I was just like, oh my gosh. She's like, you finally remember now, don't you? And I was like, yeah, I do. I remember. I'm like, I'm so sorry that happens. Like, I'm so sorry that I let you drown. And she's like, it's okay. That bad life brought us together to this good life, and now we're together. And she said something along the lines of, I mastered the gift of love and forgiveness, basically. And she's like, it happens. It's okay. And she goes, so that blew my mind. But then what blew my mind even more, she goes, yeah, Dad and my brother were also in that life. Dad drowned and died trying to save my brother, who also drowned and died. So the three of them, I guess there was some, some incident where the three of them had died. So freaked out. I kind of excused myself, got air, like got composed. And then I ran into, maybe 40 minutes later, my boyfriend at the time before bed. And he goes, hey, did she catch you and tell you the story? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I just saw emotion on this man's face that I've never seen before. And he goes, he is not really like, I mean, he's like at this point kind of a skeptic. Yeah. Like, I mean, he's just not, this is not a conversation we would normally be having. Yeah. At least at that point. And he goes, yeah, when my son was born, immediately I started having these nightmares of him drowning and dying. And he's like, I couldn't sleep for months. Wow. And eventually he was able to just kind of work through that. And he's like, I don't know where that came from. So when she said that, it just brought back all of those feelings. So that was the moment that absolutely changed my life. It made me realize that this isn't our only life here. There's no explanation for that. None. Yeah. None whatsoever. Yeah. And then, I've learned of other past lives. Also, his daughter told me other past lives that we had that I also discovered without us communicating. It's just wild. So,
and the first time you told me this story was about 5 minutes after we met.
Which that of us meeting,
and like we literally met in our apartment pool. She just moved in, and like the pool's small, like it's not like a giant pool. And so you're telling me the story while we're in the pool about the drowning.
And I found you though because I manifested you instantaneously. Because I was with another friend who were not from here, and she goes, "We need to make more friends." And I said, don't worry, the universe will send us friends. And not even 5 minutes later, Fallon walks over and is like, I like your vibe. So there we go.
And the craziest thing is, I didn't have like as like visceral experiences like that you had with your stepdaughter, but we had conversations like that. And, the stepdaughter, stepson you were talking about had the same names as my stepson and stepdaughter.
Yeah.
And we had very similar relations with that ex. And like, I had a lot of past life trauma with losing children and things like that with him. So it was just this crazy thing. And, I think it's especially for someone who's, like I've actually heard, when I was doing clinical intakes, like I had someone who had like the drowning baby thing happen. And, I just remember, I remember experiencing it with her, and even like saying it now, I'm feeling like a little fucked up. Because we most likely had an experience that someone is having right now in this life. Like we've most likely had one similar.
Oh yeah.
And that's why we get so triggered and anxious. I'm so grateful that this person is on this path and like believes in the stuff that we all do. And I mean, she really stepped up her game as she was a physician then, but now she's like all over stages and like really living her divine purpose. But yeah, I mean, we all have like pain, and it's just a matter of like what we're gonna do with it.
Exactly.
And like I tell Jackie all the time, like, if someone doesn't believe like quote unquote in this stuff, like especially animal communication, like that's on them. But like I've always been into this stuff, I guess, like deep down.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you've already worked through that lesson in another lifetime, leading you up to here.
Yeah. But when it comes to animals, like I will literally do anything. And especially when she got diagnosed with cancer, like I was just fucking distraught, obviously. she's just so young. And so, you know, her mom, who's my best friend, like, she was never really into this stuff. And she was just like, yeah, like, we'll do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
And look at you now.
Well, to be fair to everyone, when I started realizing that I could understand animals and actually communicate and get information from them, I was skeptical of myself. Coming from to be honest, from a science background, from, you know, learning about theory and evidence-based things, it's like, this, even though I was getting the proof, I still was like, my logical brain is not quite comprehending this. And it's still sometimes that creeps in. But what I have is just notebooks full of like, nope, like, this was confirmed, this is right, this is right, this is right. And even though intuitively I was able to get all this information, able to communicate with animals, and I ended up taking a course just, you know, to really learn and see and if there's any holes and get some formal training. And in that course, there was the ability to connect with other students and practice on each other's animals. And most of the students, it was all online, virtual, which is the great thing about animal communication and a lot of energy work, is you don't have to be here with the animal, which I actually prefer not to sit here. And like, if I were to read Rain right now, this isn't like my vibe. I would rather do it apart, where I can really fully tune into my own body and connect with her. Because right now I could use my senses, my like 3D senses, to see that she's sitting here, she's panting. Like, I could connect the dots that way. And I don't like that clouding my judgment of picking up on what's actually going on. You know what I mean? So in this course I was taking, we could practice on each other. Most of the students were in England. I didn't know anyone in the class, and they would post pictures of their animals. And we asked for their name, gender, and age, and nothing else. And then just kind of write what comes to you. And then the person would confirm, like, oh, yep, that makes sense. This is right. I have no idea what this is. And just because you don't know what this thing is, it doesn't mean that it's not right. It could make sense months later, or it could be the way that the animal is perceiving something that we're not understanding, which is why animal communication is really difficult. I actually prefer doing, honestly, talking to anything else than animals, spirits and anything, because it's a little bit more black and white and clear. Animals, because they're here on Earth with us, they're having their own perception of reality. They're interpreting their world in a way that has to make sense to me. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to me. Sometimes it's very clear.
Like her with the cookies. Can you tell that story? Because I thought that was so funny.
Story?
The Christmas cookies.
Oh, that she was like,
you're like, I see Rain showing me this, and I'm like, there's no way my friend would be spending all day making Christmas cookies. Oh yeah, and sure enough, she literally spent all day.
I connected with Rain, and she was just nonstop talking about these Christmas cookies and icing and all of this stuff. And like, I was like, okay, got it. Like, let's move on.
Professional, which is why
it turns out that's what they were doing the whole weekend. But like, another example would be Archer showed me an umbrella once, and I was like, an umbrella? It was a sunny day out, like, I wasn't understanding. And then I realized he was showing me the umbrella to show me Rain, but not actual Rain, the dog Rain, which is his friend. So for me to kind of put all that together, especially I know them, so I was able to put that together. But if I didn't know you and I was reading Archer, I'm like, umbrella, does that mean anything? And you're like, no, that doesn't mean anything to me. But then we realized, you know, maybe, oh yeah, that's what he was trying to say. So that's why it can be very challenging chatting with animals. But in my course that I was taking and practicing on everyone else, I was able to describe what people's backyards looked like. What one dog described a kiddie pool that he liked playing in. I was able to describe like the designs on the side of the kiddie pool and what that looked like, and lay out the backyard. And that's when I was like, okay, this, I know this is real because I'm experiencing this, but this is really real. Like, this is really, really real. And that's where I've been at for years, as kind of like at odds of like, is this actually real? And then I came to terms of like, no, this is actually happening. Like, I very much trust my abilities and ways. And that's when I decided to kind of make the shift, into this space more, and then pairing it with, modern training techniques as needed, but kind of working through energetically, and communicating and touching base that way. So it's been really interesting. I've had a lot of interesting cases. I've seen a lot of terrible things that the animals have shown me, really bad stuff. Like one dog was hiding behind a couch when a family member committed suicide, like showed me that image, and like I feel that. Another one was actually one of your friend's dogs, who I didn't realize this, but I chatted with this dog who was showing me weight and heaviness and like a head tilt to the right, and like a feeling of spinning and leaning. And turns out that dog had a stroke that I didn't realize, and has now a head tilt to the right. So it's things like that I'll pick up on that are really just confirmation that, you know, there's a lot more going on other than the fact that your dog doesn't sit or your dog jumps on guests. Like what else is going on?
Yeah,
that stuff doesn't matter. Let's kind of get to the heart of what's going on here. So yeah, it's been wild bridging that together. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
So I know obviously I want to talk about Archer, let's be honest.
Because he's asleep.
I know. He's like, I know you guys are gonna talk about me. So you know, just in this community, we've been talking a lot about like codes and how like the eyes are the soul. You know, if you look at what the universe looks like and what angels really truly look like they're giant eyes. So could you, someone that's just like kind of getting you into this, how, because that's how they're communicating to you, right? Is like what they're seeing with their eyes and then showing you. I'm trying.
Yes and no. Okay, so it's more of I would say if you talk to like 10 different animal communicators, they would give you different things. I think it's all about what senses and abilities that individual person has and how they're connecting with that animal. So for me, a lot of it is feeling and knowing versus seeing.
That's like me.
Yeah. But some people can see. See images, which honestly I think is much easier if that is
and like you're also very clear channel, and like I don't know, I mean, are all animal communicators clear channels? Like I don't know.
I think everyone can be. A lot of it is just getting yourself clear and doing the work. And, you know, anyone can do animal communication. Everyone has this ability.
We're working on that.
Yeah, no, everyone does. I know.
I would much love to talk to Archer all day.
You already do. I think people don't realize, like, you could look at your pet and go, okay, you know what they're thinking.
Yeah, so
like, you know when they want food.
So my friend texted me this audio message today with like very detailed dreams of like very important things I need to know for my life right now, which I've been like literally praying for, and it like completely turned my whole day around. Like his eyes got big and I was like, Jackie says if I tune in, I can.
Well, while you were also playing that for me, he came in here and he's worried about something. So something came in with that that message. So when you were talking about codes, something that she was telling you, there was codes in there, and it brought some energy.
Because last night I stayed up really late working on something really fun and exciting. And there was definitely some shit in here. He was like ping, 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 like looking around, and like normally he'd be like, bitch, we need to go to bed, get off your computer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on right now with the full moon, and
yeah, that's true. We're recording on full moon in Leo.
Yes, and then Pluto,
and I'm a Leo moon, so
there's a lot going on that we're picking up on and they're picking up on. Collectively we're picking up on. So I think it's gonna like ebb and flow with that. But he is definitely not himself today, Archer. Not that he's like in a bad place, but he's just not he's not coming forward a lot. Like
he's like me from yesterday. I was like,
well, you probably kept him up all night, to be honest, with your work.
Oh yeah. And like I had to stop because my eyes were hurting, but like I could have like, I was just like
yeah
in it.
It's definitely the energy right now.
And he's a manifesting generator too. So he's that like go.
Yeah.
Stop. Go.
He's having a recovery day today.
Okay.
I believe he's just kind of, he's a little, normally I'm able to connect with him like pretty right away, but he's like very much like conserving his energy, if that makes sense. But should we tell the
stuff going on?
Oh, I know.
I mean, he's the one that solidified, like, not just that, like, yes, I do want to move to Hawaii, but like if you want to share that story, because it's like my favorite story of all time.
My favorite story is the top hat story.
Okay, let's tell that.
So I connect with Archer a lot.
So I've worked with animal communicators before for 3 or 4 years, just to give you a heads up. And then you came into our lives
this past year.
Yeah.
So I work with Archer a lot in my membership program. So I have this
which I love, because it's not like a one-off reading, and especially if you have an animal who, I mean, most of them want to share and like give you insight, because like they can Rain is trying to pick a card.
Yeah.
Because they can like see into the future. And I think of it like, my interpretation of Archer talking is like, oh, seeing into the future is so easy. Humans make it so difficult. Do you feel like that's how he is?
Yeah, but he's also a little bit more funny than sassy with it. Like,
oh, okay.
He has, he's like, it's so easy. More like, not as like, okay, he's more funny about it. But yeah, so Archer and Fallon are in the membership program, which allows them to ask like a handful of questions per week, so we can do these mini sessions throughout the week, which I often find better once I get to know the animal.
Because today, if I scheduled something,
if you signed up for an hour of me working, like talking to him, he doesn't want to today.
Yeah.
So it's like, initially we did have those longer sessions.
So make sure you know your animals, human design, and big 3 in astrology.
Yeah. Very helpful.
Because someone who doesn't get that would be worried, right? Like, oh my God, he's acting so different today. What's wrong? Like,
and they're just like people too. Like he doesn't want to have this long conversation. Like I'm only gonna get so much as I'm gonna get. Versus other days he might be more chatty. So that's why it's great having like the initial sessions, and then interested in more frequent, then the membership makes sense. So you can just basically send me an audio message or a text message of like, hey, like Archer's kind of off today. Can you ask him what's going on? And then I could get back to you within that day.
He's tired.
Yeah, to let her know what's going on, and then offer support to Archer to work through whatever he's working through. So it's just a cool way that we can just kind of keep in touch more.
It's amazing. It's the best.
So Archer, when I first was connecting with him, it's one of those things that sometimes
cat so much.
I know.
I can't even handle it.
Sometimes you just have to trust what comes to you, and it's very easy to try to interpret, and it's very important not to try to do that and just kind of let the facts go. So I said to Fallon, I was like, Archer keeps showing me this. Well, first of all, Archer was very frantically like worried about something in the hallway, looking outside, like just worried about things like under the door, and kind of just showing me that antsy feeling, and then showed me this man who looks like Abraham Lincoln almost, with a top hat. And I had no idea what that was about. So I tell Fallon, and I was like, does this make sense to you? And her jaw dropped. She's like, yes, my animal communicator that I've been seeing for years told me, well, I guess let me tell you, you say the story. So
so we've been in this apartment for exactly 2 years. We've been seeing an animal communicator for probably like 1.5 years, 2 years at our old house, which we had like a much bigger yard, and like the energy of the house was like not like here.
Yeah.
And that's because Archer fucking picked this place.
I'm not surprised by that.
But there was a man in a top hat that was old, that was always in our yard.
That your animal communicator picked up, not in the 3D, not a real one, right? Yeah.
No. Okay. And so I started paying attention to when Archer was looking at that specific window, because the house had a lot of windows, and there's a lot of different places that energies and spirits could be. And I was like, oh, it's probably just like some old man from Smyrna who's like mad that we're on his land or something. And then we'd like clear and like get rid of him, and it wasn't an issue. Like I thought he was gone before we even thought about moving here.
So I had no idea about this. She never brought it up to me, and then so when I brought it up to her, like, hey, does this top hat man
I was
make
so
sense?
Disturbed he's still here.
Well, yeah, she's like disturbed, and I'm like, okay, well, this is wild that your other communicator, who I've never met or talked to, also said this years ago. So turns out, after again being in the membership program, I was able to talk to him a lot about this. And he showed me this man tormenting him and following him to this apartment, and kind of watches him, and it's kind of like haunting him. So I did some work and kind of asked this top hat man to leave, or to at least give us some space while I figure out what's going on. multiple sessions later, I realized,
because he was so closed off. It's like, I think of like a man going to therapy about like, I went to war overseas, like don't even like that's what it felt like to me.
I mean, I agree. So eventually we worked out, I was able to see where this top hat man came from, and it was from a past life of archers, and this has been haunting him from lifetime to lifetime. I don't think it was like the most recent past life. I think it might have been like maybe a couple back even. And he showed me this top hat man in a barn. There was a cat, a barn cat, who was supposed to be killing all the rodents. And Archer in that life was a rodent, like a rat or a mouse. And I see the image of this man yelling at the cat and saying like, you're not doing your job. This cat didn't want to kill the rodents. And like, you're not doing your job, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And this is what I need you to do. And he picked up Archer the rat, and then by the tail, and then took a knife and cut Archer from like the belly all the way to the neck, and like just gutted him. And the trauma he had from that experience, he just brought to this lifetime.
I've heard this story so many times, and I know
it makes me I actually feel like nauseous talking about this. Like, this is why I can't do too many readings per day, because I have a hard time. I can feel the feelings, and I have to like purge myself.
And like Archer, like, you know, like you've been working with him to actually learn how to play. Like, he's just not a cat that, like, if he was outside, he'd be dead. Like, he doesn't have to hunt. He doesn't have to do anything. And so like in that life, him being friends, like him being a rodent, friends with a cat that didn't want to kill anything. Like, I feel like that's so much of his soul. Like, he's just such a lover. And is like, give me my high-end fucking wet cat food. Or I'll
basically. Well, so we worked through that, and I kind of helped Archer like realize that was in the past. We did some like healing stuff, and he actually has breathing issues, and so
he was born fucking hot mess. His lungs weren't developed. He's coughing.
He always sounds congested.
Yeah, everyone, like people that didn't know him, because he's 12 now, they would be like, "What's wrong with your cat? Is he sick?" And I'm like, that's just how he is. And for a very long time, I had a vet who was a very close friend, and she didn't believe in any of this shit. And so it's just like, well, if it gets this bad, then we'll do something about it. And like, it's so funny because in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, so when I get my hyperbaric oxygen chamber, obviously Archer's going to go in there, and it's going to be help for his lungs. And like, yeah, it would have been before, but like the root issue was a past life trauma. And so it would only go so far.
Exactly. And it still could be helpful too, like pairing it together, but you always got to get to the root.
I needed, and there's a reason I don't have the chamber yet, but it's coming. It's just crazy. And I mean, even just the first year of his life was so hard. Like, he licked a pan, like, you know, animals do, and he happened to get like a tiny piece of a hot pepper from a sauce I made, had to get his stomach pumped. Like, the first year of his life was really rough. And then since then, it's been like just the normal wheezing and him being like, and like, I mean, it sucks. Like, it's not nice to hear, but he like hasn't been doing any of that since.
Well, think about this though. So if he was in that lifetime cut down here, what could they have done? They could have punctured his lung. It could have, he could have been, you know, that cut might not have been what caused him to die. Maybe he was drowning in fluids and stuff like that. So he brought that to this lifetime and had that symptom. And then after that session, he like actually like coughed up a bunch of mucus and it was significantly better
like
since.
You think of like The Exorcist.
I know, I didn't quite see it.
It was like that. I'm not someone that's gonna fucking take a picture of that shit. Like, it's fucking gross. But I mean, he literally, like, I looked at him and he looked at me and I was like, "What's up, bud?" And like, I knew he was gonna release something at some point.
Expect that.
It was like, and like a bunch of phlegm and gross shit came out.
And then he's been like,
and then he
much
slept
better.
He slept for 2 days and was like, "I just need to be alone with my little thoughts." Which
it was like moments after us doing this too. Like, it was like I left your apartment, went to mine, and you just texted me.
It was in 5 or 10 minutes.
Which is wild. And then he's been like better since, which I didn't quite realize that until this week, actually.
You know, I think one of the people that have fears is like getting bad news or whatever. Oh my God, I feel so heavy right now.
I know we're gonna have to cut this podcast short because the energy in here needs to be cleared. I'm not even kidding.
Okay,
it's wild.
Let's do that.
No, we can keep going until, but we're calling in a lot of heavy stuff right now.
Okay. But I told you when we first met with the person, communicator, Archer wanted to tell me that he only had 3 years left to live. And so I've had this countdown in my fucking brain. And then this move in Hawaii came, and he's the one that's like, it's written in the stars, it's destined for us to go to Hawaii. This is word for word what he said. And I'm like, oh my God, like this might be the end of it. Like I have to deal with that. And then it's like, actually, no, like you do that. I'm going to do some clearing.
Yeah. So Fallon got the 3 year download or, told the 3 years with
then
Archer, but
my dog died instead, basically.
Yeah.
But she was much older.
Yeah. I mean, Archer's up there, but I don't get the feeling like it's going to be anytime soon. But what I did get the message from Archer was that the 3 years that she received was actually the end of this chapter and the beginning of the next chapter. It was like, let's get through the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to move on to our next chapter.
This was before, my current childhood trauma memories came back. And then that's what prompted us like completely uprooting and changing our entire lives. I'm just using my pendulum. If you're like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't see me. Telling you, I've taken all the courses, I've been to retreats, I've spent money, done all this crazy stuff. And like, I'm grateful that I have the gifts I have and I don't need the tools to do it. But I'll tell you what, when I have this pendulum, it can just do the work for us. Like, this is a little bit much better. Well, this thing's about to fucking swing up and over itself. It's so funny because as a kid, and even now, I was obsessed with swinging, like swing sets. Obsessed. And I used to try and maybe this is normal, I don't know. But I would literally pump my legs every time so that I could go as high as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And I used to fantasize about it going like all the way around. Was that me being consciously suicidal or was that normal?
I feel like,
but that's what the pendulum, like this, look at this fucking thing go.
Yeah, it's definitely swinging. It is wild.
Yeah.
That doesn't shock me about you though.
No.
I don't think it's suicidal though, no.
I loved adventure.
You still do.
I do. I really do.
You're literally picking your life up and moving. So there's that. But yeah, if you want to keep tabs of Archer's adventures, I just started a little tiny blog series about him. So as there's updates, I will make more about that and also
I'm so excited.
Post about other interesting cases that I've encountered over time. But if anyone is interested in getting a reading for their pet, it doesn't have to be dogs. I know we talk about dogs and cats mostly, but I have a horse. I've had chickens, goats.
Oh my God, let's talk about Flynn.
Flynn is also a little spiritual creature. Flynn is my horse, and he has really helped me practice a lot of different, not just communication, but also like getting into a lot of other like healing modalities and things like that. Flynn had has a great massage therapist that he sees and works with, who is also into this stuff. And she actually uses a pendulum on his chakras.
You know me, I'm all about efficiency.
Yeah. Yes.
If I was just doing this on my mind, it'd be way more stressful.
Yeah. And she said that she loves working with Flynn because he gives really big releases. One of the interesting things about horses is that if you draw, like we hold stress in our body and we hold on to it, and it's a little bit more challenging for us to release it.
Yeah.
We need massages and
we need to
like
shake
that.
And dance and scream and
with horses, if you draw attention to parts of their body, they'll self-release. So you can just kind of like hover your hand over parts of them and you leave it there long enough that it brings the awareness to that spot. And you leave it there while they're processing. And while they're processing the trapped emotion or stress, they will do things like, well, that's the big, oh, do you feel better now? Yeah, I do. I've been feeling it progressively get better. They'll do, so when they're,
I need my electrolyte.
You just did what the horses would do when they have released their stress, is they would do like a yawn, or like they would chew, or some big motion like that. And that's them just releasing it out of their body. So it's been really interesting working with Flynn with that stuff in conjunction with animal communication. So I'd always like talk to him before the massage therapist would come. For all of the animals I work with, I do a body scan, and I can physically feel on my body where their pain is. Sometimes pain isn't like really bad pain. It just could be like slight discomfort. Like Rain. Yeah, I was working with Rain and she showed me some discomfort. I forgot, I had to go back to my notes. I've talked to way too many animals to remember all the details, but one of her legs, there was some discomfort, and it wasn't like, this is an emergency, but it was, this is uncomfortable. We need to, so I let her mom know. And turns out she did have an injury, a little cut there or something. And then it led to like overcompensation because there was a cut here. So she's kind of walking a little differently, led to like a muscle strain. And I suggested that she go to acupuncture for the first time. And that's been helping quite a lot, which is great. Which is why I think animal communication is like such a good thing, because if you can pair it with another practice and work together as a team, that's where the magic happens. I am not a vet. I am a dog trainer. I can give you dog training advice. I am not a vet. I am not a board certified animal behaviorist, which they have to go to vet school for.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I cannot give you medical advice, but what I can do is tell you what intuitively I'm picking up on. So you can go to your professional and you can say, hey, like, this is kind of what we're dealing with. Like, what do you think? And they could look further. They might not be able to find anything, but if you go out on a limb, they're like, okay, let's just try acupuncture and see, and you notice a little bit of improvement. Great. Then we can touch back with me again, see what I pick up on, maybe go back and continue, or, change diets or whatever it might be. It's a lot of trial.
Like you picked up on Archer paying attention to his mouth and his teeth, and my vet was like, he should get a cleaning.
Oh yeah.
And I made the executive decision, like, I'm not, anesthesia for animals, like, it takes them a long time to recover. And like, no, I told Archer, like, we're not doing that.
And that's the thing, is they'll bring stuff up, and it doesn't mean you have to drop and do everything.
Exactly.
Like I picked up, he brought the fact that he brought his teeth up to me. I brought it up to you. Your vet had just recently mentioned to you that he could use a dental. You made the decision that with his age and the condition of his teeth, it doesn't make sense to do it. I agree with that, in the sense that if the vet doesn't think it's that bad,
heal all of our problems.
Yeah. But it's totally just like, it's just information.
Yeah.
And you do with the information as you want.
Yeah.
Like Archer requested his food to be heated up. His wet food,
God.
which you did. And I was like, Fallon, don't do it. Like you did. And you're like, I'm gonna do it.
I did it
for a couple days.
Apartment smelled like hot cat food.
Yeah,
is what it smelled like.
I was like a treat here and there, but
I couldn't even, like, I was literally like this cooking it and putting it upside down for him.
I will tell you what they say, but it doesn't mean you have to do it.
I did it for a few days, and then I was like, dude, we can't
do it on his birthday and like a holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally they're kids. Like, can I have ice cream for breakfast?
Exactly.
Like, you use that information as you will.
Yeah.
And see, but
yeah.
So if anyone has any questions or want more information,
I'll put all the links below.
Yeah, Fallon put the links below. It's JackieTheChannel.com. I have animal communication services. If you're a client of that and we feel that you need some dog training help as well, we have services for that. And I do actually human channeling. So if you
She's done a lot. You've given me so much insight.
Yeah.
So grateful.
Yeah. So I'll kind of just channel. I don't channel, and I don't, though I do have mediumship abilities. I'm not trying to connect with a specific person. I just connect with whatever energy that comes forward for that person. And I deliver whatever message needs to be delivered. If you had any specific questions.
I feel like I'm gonna fall over.
I know we need to stop because the energy is wild. So I know you just cleared it, but if you don't keep that going, I'm gonna pass out. So that's our cue. But if you have any questions about that stuff, feel free to go to my website, check the link below, and I can always answer any questions. And I am becoming more active on social media, so stay tuned for that, because I will make little series that you guys can follow along.
Yeah, including Archer and all of his adventures. And I'm also going to put the link below. If you want to know where my trusted pendulum is from, I will put the link below so that you can get on the bandwagon. And just so grateful for you.
Yes, I'm grateful for you too.
So fun. See you soon.
Bye.